Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are at the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. My promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. And today I'm really so stoked to have a great guest on, Derick Johnson. Welcome, Derick.
Hey, Lorraine. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
So tell me a little bit about your business and who you serve.
Yes, for sure. So what I do, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. So I took my experience in the Army training soldiers, also training civilians. And now I help people and business owners identify areas that they're struggling with and break those old patterns. So an example is they crush it in sales, but they neglect personal time or family time, or vice versa. Maybe they spend too much time with family and loved ones and they're struggling in sales, or maybe they're struggling with public speaking or things that they're consuming if they have a vice that controls them. So we identify patterns that aren't serving them. We break those along with limiting beliefs or past traumas. So then they feel that they have more control of the other areas of their life and are not like a one-stop shop or a one-trick pony where they're great at one or two things and the rest are kind of like, I'll get around to it January 1st. So I make sure that they can thrive in all areas and not just feel like they're surviving.
So what got you into this? What made you decide to do this?
Great question. So I grew up with a father who is 25 plus years in the military, and my mother was a kindergarten teacher, Montessori school teacher for over 40 years. I didn't personally go to it, but that structure, that discipline from both parents. My mother's German. So if you all know about the old school German mentality, very aggressive, get things done my way or the highway. And then my father was Army, so the drill sergeant dad. So having those type of parents, you have the structure, the discipline, the professionalism. But on the flip side, they went through many things in their career and personally in their childhood. So binge drinking ran in both sides of my family. So I was on the brunt end of that at night as a teen. So the dark nights, yelling, screaming, all the stuff that happens with alcoholism. But because of that, I was able to identify patterns in my family tree that I wanted to break. So because I received all that from the people that were around me, I wanted to help people. I knew it wouldn't be family because not all family is open for change. But being that skinny, insecure, quiet, and shy kid, fitness started as my outlet. I did it more so to build my body. And then I fell in love with the mental aspect of the confidence and the calmness. And then with the transformation, people were asking, hey, how'd you do this? You're so laid back and calm now. You used to be very stressed and timid. Then as a teen, I would help my teachers, my classmates, and eventually now, 33 years old, have worked with hundreds of people from school to athletes to soldiers to now business executives. So it's honestly, looking in hindsight, healing that inner child, being able to help heal others so that way that they don't carry their past traumas or struggles into everything that they do.
I love that. It's like I come from a military family. Pretty much everybody in my family served in one way or another, but I didn't grow up on a base or anything like that. But what I wanted to ask you is, what is it in particular that, you say as being an Army vet, you have tied in together some principles? Maybe share one principle that you have that you teach everybody that you learned from the Army.
Yes, definitely. So in the Army, we have core values, just like most companies and businesses do. Well, the ones that are crushing it, they normally have core values. But one of the core values that I always loved was selfless service. So what I teach my clients is society will say that it's selfish for you to take care of yourself, for me to take care of ourselves. And they see it in a selfish standpoint, but actually it's in reverse where they're selfless. If you show up as a better woman, if I show up as a better man, if they show up as better individuals or parents, they can help make a better impact on whoever they work with, their family, or even strangers they come across in public because they carry themselves in a more positive and confident way. So I always flip it and I start with them. It starts with them first so they can end up being selfless. So they feel like they have more control of things, and people, they radiate that good energy because we know how it feels in reverse. Like you could be around someone, they don't say a word, and you can just feel their energy. They're like, all right, I got to get away from this person. So making sure that they're positively affecting people than negatively infecting. So the selfless service, flipping the mentality of if and when you work on yourself and you make yourself proud and confident, you'll show up more excited to do anything for anyone else. So creating that individual that they'd be proud of, and then give him or her to others, whether that's business, whether that's family related, or just spreading their knowledge and wisdom.
I love that. You know, we live in a society today where so many people are struggling, especially mentally. We've got these voices in our head that maybe we're not enough, maybe we're not good enough, maybe we can't do it, maybe I'll fail, whatever that self-talk that people have. Why do you think people struggle with stuff like this?
Great question. I think one of the biggest reasons, besides somebody's upbringing, is their attention span is so low, as in everything and everyone wants our attention right now. Kids, pets, social media ads, somebody you follow, business, emails, notifications, this, that, Uber Eats, DoorDash, every single thing on our devices and just people in our life, they want our attention. So what I mean by that is people's attention span is lower than ever. So they're always bouncing from thing to thing. They could be writing this email to a client. They get a notification. It's another email. Then their friend texts them a meme or a funny video. Then this pops up. Then that pops up. 10 minutes later, they're like, what have I even been doing? And then they lose track of time and where they were. And they end up being at 20 to 40% finished with each individual task. And they start to feel overwhelmed, like they're drowning in tasks that are uncompleted. And then like just having that on a day-to-day basis, they're always trying to catch up. The next day, they're doing stuff that should have been done yesterday and last week. And they're just like, can I just catch a break? I just want to finish one thing, go on to the next. So I do believe that it all stems from lack of a long attention span, because we're so distracted by things. Our phones, they can help us. Laptops can help us. But for most people, a lot of what they do distracts them or doesn't help their business or their personal goals at all, because they have a bad loop pattern. So like a loop pattern could be, I'm about to get on this call with a client, and 5 minutes before, you feel some stress, you grab your phone, you do a loop pattern, whether that person goes to YouTube first, CNN, Instagram, LinkedIn, everybody does a particular pattern to just like kind of mentally tap out for a moment. But they do that pattern like 50 plus times a day and they don't notice it, that they're like, how much time do I actually spend in these apps? So I would challenge everybody to go to your most frequently used app, click on your settings and look at your screen time, whether it's minutes or hours on that app. And you might be mind blown where you're like 2.5 hours on Instagram daily. It's not even 12 o'clock. And then you might be surprised, or it's like 10 minutes on an app, but making sure that that time is intentional, because some people, they use social media for their business, but is that 2 hours strictly for business or just scrolling for entertainment? So I think it definitely stems from attention. And then because they don't feel like they finish things, they start to then compare themselves to others. And they don't realize that the reason that they're not making the progress they want is, number one, they don't give full attention and deep work on one particular thing, because there's always an interruption from a notification. And then eventually every little thing turns out like an emergency to them or a priority, where they stop what they're doing to jump to this thing and they jump to that. So it's really hard for them to catch any traction and momentum because of the lack of attention and the interruptions.
Yeah, I confess that at times, sometimes to get away, I like literally will binge watch TikTok videos. And like, so some of them are so stupid, but I still watch them anyways. It's like, but it's interesting. You pointed out a very particular behavior, and I would probably agree. If you sit in a restaurant today with someone, you notice if you look around, everybody's on their phone. They can't even like have be in a restaurant without going to the phone. It's kind of sad. Exactly. I remember a time when we all went out to play without phones. Maybe you don't, exactly. But I actually do. But anyway,
I definitely do.
And now if we leave our phone at home, we actually come back and get it, which is pretty scary, because we didn't have, when I was a little girl, there were no cell phones. There were walkie-talkies. Exactly. That's what we had, walkie-talkies. So it seems like you've come a long way. You're a leader today. What do as being a leader and helping people and, guiding them on their journeys, what traits have you noticed in people?
I've noticed that people that get the fastest results, not that they're rushing or doing like a crazy challenge, is they were in some type of competitive field beforehand, whether they were an athlete growing up, maybe they were in band. Some people don't realize how competitive people in band are. Like, I'm from the South. I'm from the panhandle of Florida. So all the universities, all the high schools and all that, they compete like crazy. So competitive nature, number one, could come from sports, band, maybe it's martial arts, maybe it's a specific hobby. Number two could be salespeople. Salespeople, they also have that natural fire and that umph. So competitive people, people driven by finances or just crushing their coworkers via numbers. And then number three is people that have been through some traumatic experiences. A lot of them can use that fire to their advantage, where they're like, I don't want to fully forget this because this actually has helped me get to where I'm at, but they can tap into that fire for a moment, not the entire day or for weeks on end, but sometimes they just have to put themselves in that state and say, this is why I'm here. I'm going to make my younger version proud. But definitely those three examples. So the athletic person that was competitive, the person that is either in sales and just has that natural fire, and then three is people that have been through trauma or have quote unquote seen hell or been through hell. They know how it feels to be really lower in a dark place and they never want to go backwards. So they have that extra push that most people probably do not have because they either didn't play sports, they either didn't have much trauma. Not that we're wishing that people have trauma, but they just don't really have that fire in them like others do.
Yeah, I find it. I've listened to a lot of motivational speakers, have seen some in person, and their stories are like, oh my gosh. And
yes,
you can see they are on fire. So totally agree with that. This is the part of the show where we get kind of a little real here.
okay.
What is it that you love the most about being in business for yourself?
What I love the most is the time freedom, and not so much like kick my feet up, lay at the beach 5 days a week, not the generic Instagram meme style, but more so that I get excited because I wake up early. I have an hour to 2 hours to myself, and that's usually a workout or time with my girlfriend or just not doing anything and just meditating. But it's more so I prime my morning for myself, and then I just show up for others. And it's just the excitement of planning my schedule and knowing that everything in the schedule moves me forward and moves clients forward, where everybody's winning. Because if I'm in a better state, they can sense it. Our conversations go better, their workouts go better, vice versa. So it's more so structuring the days where everything is intentional. Morning part is for me. This part is for conversations, coaching calls, or podcasts like this. This other part is non-negotiable Friday date lunch with my girlfriend. Like, nothing else matters. I'll block off a 2.5 hour window. And then like we're just present. We don't touch our phone unless we have to send a couple emails. Sometimes business doesn't stop, but we try as best as we can to be present. But I would say scheduling my schedule where it just makes me proud because I'm making progression daily and weekly, opposed to like the flip side where people that maybe have not been in business long or want to, they just think, oh, it's all going to flow together. I'm going to work less and make more and just travel all the time and do all this. And yes, you can get to that point. But at first, if you're not ready to go 80 plus hours a week, then business might not be for them. But definitely being able to set up the schedule where everything relates back to making progress in my own life and to help other people make progress.
Yeah, I love the beach, but even that gets old after a while. So it's like,
oh yeah,
think that's what they're going to do when they retire, is they're going to travel and all that. But you really have to have even a plan in retirement. It's so important.
For sure.
So, our friends, our family, maybe our family, they're usually the worst critics. But, a lot of people think this having your own business is glamorous, but we both know that there's struggles and challenges when it comes to having a business. What would you say is your biggest challenge in today's world?
I would say in business is using each of these apps efficiently. Not that I don't use them, but more so like knowing your own numbers and tracking your own numbers. Because for example, nowadays at this very moment, consistency wins with content. So some content strategists might say, well, you need to make this style video, you need to make this. That sounds great. But if somebody's not posting 7 days a week, they'll notice that their growth slows down or stops unless they're running ads. So knowing your own numbers and keeping that in mind. So an example could be maybe this particular post crushed it on Facebook or TikTok for this individual. If they can look at the numbers and say, okay, these kind of posts do really well on this app, let's do more of this. Where it takes that business owner to push the pride and ego away because they might love this style picture or video, but maybe it just doesn't perform well on that particular app or in their newsletter or in their email list, but really checking their numbers. And then once you get down the numbers, you can make better decisions. So I would say that just to make sure that I check the numbers, because then sometimes I can make things more effective and efficient and use less energy and bandwidth. Because my competitive side in military and just my thought process is like, go, 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 go. Sometimes I just need to pause, slow down, look at the analytics and say, you know what? This is more effective, efficient, takes less time, less energy, and actually has a better end result. So just pausing for a moment and really looking at your analytics of every part of social media. And also in regards to if somebody has like a Google listing for their business, whether that's a digital business online, or if they have a brick and mortar, checking those analytics as well, because that can tell you a lot about your demographics. So number one, definitely analytics of social media. And number two, looking at the feedback and the patterns of clients and customers that I've had or that people have had, really tracking that, because then you can see, okay, there's a recurring theme of this is an issue, or there's a recurring theme that people love this. So just going back to the analytics and the numbers.
Yeah, you always have to check your numbers. A lot of people think that they can just go through owning a business and not check their numbers ever. And that can get you into a lot of trouble really, really quick.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So I have a lot of listeners that are, some are new business owners, some are seasoned, some are like thinking, like they're toying with the idea that they may want to start a business. What piece of advice, universal piece of advice would you give to them to help them move forward and encourage them?
Great question. So I would choose something that you're passionate about. Sounds very generic and cliche, but for example, in college for like 3 months, I worked for Primerica. I have nothing against the company or nothing against people that sell life insurance. I just hated it. I wasn't shy about going into people's kitchens and having the meeting, but weeks before I got my certifications and my coach at the time was like, yeah, they're going to transfer X amount. And I'm like, I just got certified and you want me to recommend that they transfer 100K to this account and that. And just to me, I was like, I don't have enough experience in this. But in general, it just wasn't a passion at all. So step one, think long-term and say, does this make me happy? Do I solve problems? So like with myself, I truly love what I do because I love to see people thriving, happy, getting results, getting promotions, all the positive traits of becoming a better individual. So to zoom out, going back to them, does your product or service get you excited because it solves problems? So I always would recommend starting with something that you know can solve somebody's problem that gets you excited. Because if you go into insurance, just an example, and you have zero interest, zero passion, that fire is going to die down or is going to be minimal, where you're just going to treat it like a number and people can sense that energy. Well, they might say the perfect sentence or the perfect message in the text and email, but if they just don't care about the industry, people are going to start to feel that energy. I truly feel that the perfect words could be said by anybody, but if they can feel that that person's not genuine, then they're not going to work with them. So I would first start and choose a product or service or whatever industry relates to their passion of solving problems. Because I feel like when we serve others, it's exciting, it's empowering, and then it comes full circle. Because what better response in business than a happy customer or happy client bringing you leads, bringing you customers and saying, hey, I'm so happy with your service, with this product, and it going from there. And I truly believe that can only happen when that individual is actually sold on what they're doing, whether they live it, whether they use it, or they just have like life experience in that thing.
Yeah, I think everyone, when they spent time in college, had that one job that they knew that they were not going to do. I remember, I think I for one summer, I sold Cutco knives. It was miserable.
Door to door.
It did solve a problem though in more ways than one, and whatever.
Exactly.
It's really kind of funny. So, you great guest today. You have such a wealth of knowledge, and I just so enjoyed, talking with you and having this conversation. If somebody resonated with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Great question. So they can find me on social media. That's going to be Fit with Derick, Derick with the number 2. Fit with Derick 2. Or they could just search my name, Derick Johnson. It's the same picture on everything. And my whole intent with social media is to plant seeds, make them think, make them slow down and say, you know what? I'm wasting my potential in this area. Let me tighten up some. That's all it is. I'm that friend that's going to call you out just because I want to see you win. And that's just what I do. I hate seeing people confused and stuck, and then also in their own way. I love to just see people winning and really make them think when they're like, you know what? I need to put myself first for a change, because then they can show up better for others. And then besides that, the coaching website is fitwithderick.com, fitwithderick.com. On there, I like to show real people with real results. There's a lot of Photoshop on social media. So that's why I like to have videos and people express and share their experiences of their personal growth, their personal successes of their areas of life that they wanted to master and work on.
I love that. Well, thank you again for being on my show. And to everyone
I appreciate it, Lorraine.
And to everyone out there, until next week, I'll see you soon. This is the Biz Gone Social Podcast signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social Podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.